Part 78. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 789. Realizing that the 5 projector Type 2s had been disconnected from him, Binghua clicked his tongue and used force to overcome skill, which was a good way to deal with it. It seems that the intelligent combat system of the projector 2 needs to be improved. If you get too close when chasing, you can easily be beaten. Leng slowly landed not far from Binghua, and behind her was the canyon blasted out by her flame bombardment. Green smoke was rising at the moment. Continue, Leng. Leng hesitated for a moment, but finally relaxed his body. Forget it, teacher, let's do it next time. I will lose this time. Leng's voice was a little low, and it was obvious that the little self-confidence she had just gained from the previous discussion was destroyed by Binghua. Binghua didn't pay much attention, threw away the flaming sword, came to Leng's side, patted her shoulder and comforted her. Don't cry with a sad face. You are already very strong. I guarantee that the words you talk about often are not enough for you to hit with one hand now. In order to comfort his students, Binghua moved Kaisha's student Yan out without any scruples. Really, teacher? Am I that strong? Leng didn't believe it. Although she kept saying that Yan was no better than her, she knew in her heart that Yan was actually very strong. She had always regarded Yan as her opponent. Of course, you are my student. Let me tell you, when I was in Merlot Heaven, your Queen Kessa was not necessarily my opponent. But it's a pity that until I left Merlot Heaven, we didn't really have a fight. Binghua's voice was very melancholy, as if he was regretting this matter. Leng Vinian was a little unconvinced. She was a staunch follower of Queen Kesha. She always believed that she was the most powerful angel and had the title of King of Gods. Her teacher must be bragging. Okay, let's not talk about this anymore. I see that you are tired today. Let's go. The teacher will take you to relax. Binghua changed the subject, put his arm around Leng's shoulders, ignored her resistance, opened the wormhole and dragged Leng in. Planet number 15246, in the temporary Angel Palace, a few hundred square meters of super-large pool surface was filled with hot air. Binghua soaked her curvaceous body in the water and leaned against the off-white stone shore, enjoying the package. Holds the warmth of most of the body. Leng looked calm, but he was vomiting crazily in his heart. His teacher's so-called relaxation was taking a bath. Leng remembered that the last time she took a bath, she was still a mortal. Since she became an angel, her body would not sweat, nor would she feel too hot or cold. The need to clean her body can only be satisfied under the scan of the cleaner. Occasionally she will take a bath, but she only does it when she thinks of it. And due to changes in the concept of time, Leng often spends several days or even months performing tasks in the mellow heavenly court at a time, so some of the habits he developed when he was still a mortal are gradually forgotten. What? Don't you like this? Binghua was closing her eyes to rest, but as if she could see Leng's expression, she asked softly. No, teacher, it's just. Don't think so much about the cold. We are angels, existences comparable to gods in the eyes of mortals. We have no shortage of strength, and we don't need money. There are actually very few things that can make us feel satisfied. You are still young and like to pursue glory and faith. But when you live to a certain age, you will find that faith will become dull and glory will become boring. So at this time you need to find some new things that can make you feel happy. Leng Vinian thought of some of the older generation of angel warriors he had met in the Merlot heavenly court. They had no desires and seemed to lack the curiosity to explore anything. This is also one of the reasons why Leng dislikes their behavior, because in Leng's view, they are all enforcers of justice. There are so many weak people in the world who need their rescue. How can they feel at ease as angels? He's just hanging out in Merlot heaven. I think bathing is a good hobby. You don't have to think about anything or do anything. You just need to lie here quietly and feel the warmth that wraps your whole body. I think you should try it too, Leng. Leng Vinian had no intention of resisting. He untied the ponytail tied behind his head and let his golden hair hang down and spread out in the water. Leng's originally heroic face was half covered by the hanging hair. That touch of feminine beauty. Binghua opened her eyes, looked at Leng, and joked. You look good dressed like this, it will make people feel protective. Have you ever considered showing yourself like this in the future? Leng shook his head slightly and followed his teacher's example, leaning on the stone bank behind him and letting his body slowly sink into the water. I am a warrior, not a vase who needs protection from others. Binghua shook his head slightly and stopped talking. When Binghua's training with Leng came to an end, the great crusade of the justice world was also progressing smoothly. In Star Region 8, the Judgment Angel chapter of the 2nd Expeditionary Force is cooperating with the Super Legion to annihilate the remnants of the Eternal Ascended Ones on a planet. The leader of this battle group is Angel Ziluo, one of the Archangels of Judgment. Sister Ziluo, you were leading the sisters to fight just now, I didn't disturb you. The Queen has sent an order to transfer you to the 1st Expeditionary Army. Ziluo kicked away the remains of the mechanical warrior in front of him and raised his eyebrows slightly. Are there any other orders besides the transfer order? Ziluo was a little puzzled. She didn't believe that the 1st Expeditionary Force lacked combat effectiveness, and it was not the Queen's style to transfer troops like this for no reason. Sister Ziluo, I heard from the sisters in the 1st Expeditionary Force that it seems that the Queen has accepted a student. And your ability to fight with bare hands on the battlefield is highly praised even by the Queen. The angel who contacted Ziluo didn't say anything else, but the meaning was self-evident. In fact, it is not difficult to guess. It is not a secret that Leng became Binghua's student. Although some angels are envious, they are not very jealous. Because the tactics of angels are not a secret in the world of justice. As long as you can learn it, there are no restrictions. If you want to join the Angel Legion, you must learn the basic dark energy tactics. Ziluo herself actually preferred this reason, and she was also very curious about the Queen's students. She wanted to see what was so special about this angel that she was accepted as a student by the Queen and taught personally. At this moment, Leng, who was in the 1st Expeditionary Army, didn't know that she had finally accomplished her goal of defeating the Immortal Team, and her teacher found a new training partner for her. And this time, he is a god-level angel who can tear apart the destroyer mechanical warrior with his hands. I believe Leng will like this surprise that Binghua gave her. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 790. In the purified star territory, after a long battle and the destruction of countless unmanned planets with automated factories, the 1st Expeditionary Force finally arrived at the planetary system where the Eternal Ascenders General Assembly Center in the purified star territory is located, the 2864 planetary system. Faced with the pressing steps of the righteous world, the Eternal Ascender finally chose to gather all his forces and concentrate on the defense of this planetary system. As soon as the two sides came into contact, pig brains turned into dog brains. The 1st Expeditionary Force, which had been going smoothly, finally suffered its first failure since the beginning of the Great Expedition. Regardless of their own losses, the Eternal Ascendants launched an expedition against the world of justice with the Purification flagship and Annihilator battleship, and the God's fleet launched a suicidal attack. The 1,000-meter-long metal giant ships collided with each other and turned into fireballs blooming in the universe. Even if the 1st Angel Legion attacked with all its strength, it would not have much effect. In the face of huge losses, the 1st Expeditionary Force had to retreat temporarily and make long-term plans. This is different from the previous wars, which were defensive wars. As the defender, Justice World must resist no matter how big the losses are. Now, as the attacker, the Justice World does not need to fight with the Eternal Ascended Ones. It can achieve the greatest results at the smallest cost. This is what the commanders of the various legions want. The person responsible for the defense of the 2864 planetary system is an extremely senior intelligent life form of the destroyer sequence 018. Facing the attack of the righteous world, he relied on his powerful computing power to forcefully drag the first expeditionary force to the purification star domain for decades. Without his overall coordination and blocking every step of the way, the first expeditionary force would have reached the 2846 planetary system 10 years ago. However, no matter how exhaustive he would still have to succumb to the rules of physics. Faced with the gradual reduction of resource supply and the decrease in production efficiency, he was unable to turn around. After calculation, after discovering that there was no other better option, Destroyer 018 of the 2846 planet system could only gather all the remaining troops to fight against the Justice World. As the leader of the First Angel Legion under the Goddess, Kaza is standing on the top armor of a Destruction-class ship as the vanguard of the expedition fleet, surrounded by angel warriors who maintain flying postures. With the failure of the first attack on the 2846 planetary system, the first expeditionary force blocked the second attack. This time, compared to the haste last time, the expeditionary force formulated a more complete attack plan. Kaza's First Angel Legion and Expeditionary Fleet will serve as the sharp knives of the attack, and the subsequent God's Fleet will serve as the expansion pliers to tear apart the gap. After that, the Super Legion will rush into the 2846 planetary system to capture the outermost ninth planet. Even if planet number 2846 is not invaded this time, at least the expeditionary force must establish a foothold here, and then slowly grind with the Eternal Ascended Ones who have no reinforcements, and sooner or later they can conquer this place. Kaza, as the most powerful battle angel besides Binghua in the first expeditionary force at the moment, chose to lead the army in battle personally. The overall command of this war was handed over to the Supreme Tactical Planning Department. There were many commanders there who were proficient in battlefield command. They were professional in battlefield command. Seeing that the outermost planets of the 2846 planetary system had come into view, Kaza carried out his weapon. The sword was made of silver and was thick but not bloated. It was exactly the big sword that Binghua took out from his arsenal and gave to Kaza after he upgraded his divine body. The fleet that was originally advancing in formation suddenly dispersed around. Kaza frowned. The next moment, his sensing range detected multiple energy reactions, and he was quickly approaching the fleet. In the deep space of the universe filled with stars in the distance, dazzling light spots suddenly lit up. The next moment, those light spots were stretched into blue beams of purifying energy, passing by Kaza's side. Since the fleet dispersed in advance, the sudden beam barrage did not cause any damage to the fleet. But the next moment, the blue light and shadow that swept from the interior of the 2846th planet system at high speed stopped in the area very close to the expedition fleet. As the light and shadow dispersed, the purification flagships and the annihilator battleships were revealed inside. Before the expedition fleet could focus their fire to destroy these approaching enemy ships, a large number of purifier sequence mechanical warriors were released into the universe. The soldiers of the First Angel Legion obey the order and destroy those mechanical warriors. They must not be allowed to rush into the fleet. Kaza ordered in the communication that just as the angels have the ability of individual anti-ships, the mechanical warriors of the Eternal Ascended also have the ability to destroy large warships. When Kaza led the Legion angels to rush in and destroy the mechanical warriors approaching the fleet, there was a very special delivery room inside a purification flagship at the back of the incoming fleet. A mechanical warrior more than 2 meters tall is exposing his alloy mechanical skeleton, with complex buffer devices and energy conveyor belts tightly integrated together. The surrounding mechanical arms are attaching pieces of armor to the frame, and are tightly integrated with the frame under the special internal link buckles. As the last piece of armor was installed, blue energy surged in the transmission circuit under the armor, and the originally dull silver-gray armor became brighter. The destroyer special combat type has been prepared. The purification reactor has been started. The rechargeable armor strength is 100%. The purification energy field is activated, the power is 100%. As the prismatic eyes on the mechanical warrior's face lit up with blue light, he seemed to suddenly come to life from his deep sleep. It's such a strange feeling. It's better to have a body that can move at will, so that it will be more convenient to do things. Destroyer 018 moved his palms, becoming familiar with the steel body made of precision special alloys and the most cutting-edge technology of the Eternal Ascender. When Destroyer 018 takes steps, every step he takes will make a dull sound when it hits the alloy ground. Even if he draws back his strength, it will have no effect because the mass of this body is so amazing. At the same time, the alloy wall on the side flipped over, and a thick back sword with a simple shape and criss-crossing lines on its cross-section was pushed over. Destroyer 018 reached out and picked up the sword. The folded wings on his back continued to unfold and fold slightly, doing a final self-check. When everything was ready, the heavy delivery door began to rise, revealing the battlefield where fierce fighting was taking place outside. From time to time, there would be light from explosions, casting everything around them in a flash of fire. The flying wings unfolded, and the blue flames at the nozzle suddenly became brighter. Destroyer 018 rushed out, bringing a burst of blue tail flames straight into the battlefield. As the fleets of the Justice World continued to press forward, even the tactics of perish by the Eternal Ascended were of no use. Kazaa led the Angel Army and fleet to gradually push the battlefield to the outermost ninth planet of the 2846 planetary system. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 791. Kazaa took the lead and avoided the oncoming purification beam. He used the kinetic energy of his own flight to slam into a mechanical warrior and pushed him against the shield of the purification flagship. Dazzling energy sparks continued to burst out, and the purifying energy that formed the energy shield was constantly melting the mechanical warrior's wings and back armor. Seeing this, Kazaa pushed even harder. After a few seconds of stalemate with the shield, he pushed the tattered remains of the mechanical warrior directly into the side armor of the purification flagship. The purification flagship that was sailing forward was suddenly hit. The bow of the ship tilted slightly and deviated slightly from the course. But in the end, because Kazaa's own size was too small, he only made a large hole several meters wide in the purification flagship and failed to directly knock it apart. However, Kazaa's entry into the battleship has become a big problem that cannot be solved in purifying the flagship. Kazaa waved the sword in his hand at will, and flaming slashes flew out continuously, cutting the surroundings into chaos. Tens of seconds later, the purification flagship's engine stalled, and a part of the hull suddenly exploded, emitting a blinding cloud of fire. Kazaa took the opportunity to rush out, without even looking at the enemy ship that was gradually disintegrating behind him. A male angel warrior waved the Fan Shenjian in his hand and cut a huge gap with sparks in the chest of the mechanical warrior in front of him. The head then lowered to avoid an oncoming purification beam, and the Fan Shenjian in his hand did not forget to turn over and thrust forward, sinking into the armor gap on the mechanical warrior's chest until it came out through the back. After waiting for 2 seconds and seeing that the mechanical warrior pierced by the sharp blade in his hand did not move again, the male angel warrior relaxed and pulled the weapon out of his body. But the male angel suddenly felt something was wrong. He turned around and a tall shadow blocked the light coming from the star. The pair of blue prism-shaped luminous eyes seemed to be staring at him like the god of death. Destroyer 018 stared at the slender little angel who turned around in front of him. The crisscrossing energy circuits on the thick back sword in his hand suddenly burst out with dazzling brilliance. As soon as some fine dust and atoms drifting in the vacuum touch the blade that is burning with blazing energy flames, they will be instantly vaporized, eroded, and burned away. Facing this scene, the male angel in front of Destroyer 018 was shocked. He quickly swept the Fan Shenjian in his hand, trying to force the big mechanical warrior in front of him back. But only a giant mechanical claw stretched out to grasp the sweeping Fan Shenjian. Seeing this, the male angel warrior immediately changed his moves, using Fan Shenjian as a support point, and kicked out his right foot. A circle of translucent blue energy spread slowly, and the male angel felt as if he had kicked the armor plate of the battleship. The opponent just moved his arm holding Fan Shenjian to withstand the impact. Just when the male angel decisively gave up his weapon and prepared to distance himself and discuss the matter in the long term, Destroyer 018 moved. The thick back sword with the purifying energy turned on brought a blur of blue light and shadow across the male angel's neck, causing a splash of blood. Loosening the hold of Fan Shen's sword Destroyer 018, he looked at the angel in front of him who was holding his throat. Some parts of the flying wings behind him unfolded and turned to face the front. Two dazzling purification beams flew out, fell on the angel warrior, and turned into a blooming blue firework. After many battles with angels, the Eternal Ascended Ones have gradually figured out a way to effectively kill super warriors, which is high-intensity localized energy cutting. This method can effectively deal with super warriors who do not have a divine body. After doing all this, Destroyer 018 did not stop and found the next target again, and his actions were not very eye-catching, because there were not many angels injured and fallen on this battlefield. It wasn't until nearly 15 soldiers of the 1st Angel Legion were pierced through the chest by the weapon in the hands of Destroyer 018 that the surrounding angel warriors finally noticed this powerful enemy that suddenly appeared. Immediately, 5 male angels formed a temporary combat team, preparing to surround and kill this special model of mechanical warrior. Seeing this, Destroyer 018 showed no fear, and his cold computational thinking continued to analyze the surrounding environment. At the same time, based on the various data of the male angels that had fought before, it was applied to the 5 male angels who were approaching quickly, and their possible attack routes were calculated. Destroyer 018 simulated nearly 100 battles with the male angel team in an instant, obtained valuable data, and then quickly rushed towards the male angel approaching in one direction. The other male angels who were approaching saw this formation and also followed suit. The male angel who was targeted by Destroyer 018 was looking for it, and the Fan Shen sword in his hand was glowing with fiery energy. The next moment, a blue and red energy shockwave spread out in all directions. Where Fan Shenjian and the thick back sword collided, the purifying energy and dark energy continued to cancel each other out, and a dazzling flash of light burst out. But the stalemate lasted for less than 2 seconds before the male angel was shaken and flew backwards. Destroyer 018 was about to pursue him and first cut down one of the angels surrounding him, but his detection system detected several. A high-intensity energy reaction is approaching rapidly. Based on the data obtained, Destroyer 018 analyzed that the one closest to him should be the most commonly used method of long-range attack by angels, the Flame Slash. According to the obtained Flame Slash data, Destroyer 018 immediately simulated its flight trajectory. Without turning his head, his body sank and moved sideways to avoid the incoming Flame Slash. This big guy is not simple. Prepare for the god-killing operation, Tactics No. 1. The male angel of the temporary team said in the communication that the so-called god-killing operation is a tactic used to face a single powerful target, making full use of one's own flexibility and maneuverability to harass the enemy, and wait for opportunities to weaken the opponent's defense capabilities, and find opportunities to kill with one strike. In addition to the number 1 tactic, there is also the number 2 tactic, which is mainly about encirclement but not attacking, and the number 3 tactic, which is combined with defensive parry. Among them, the number 1 tactic has the widest scope of application and is also the most commonly used god-killing combat. 018 Destroyer thought that after having detailed data, he could easily deal with these angels, but what he failed to calculate was the cooperation of these angels. Since Destroyer 018 was using a special machine that favored hand-to-hand combat at this time, he was unable to effectively interfere with the cooperation between the 4 angels besieging him. But what Destroyer 018 didn't know was that the 4 angel warriors who besieged him were also shocked. They were all high-level angels and were considered the main force of the angel army. But even so, they still couldn't take down this special model of mechanical warrior with their cooperation. According to their visual inspection, this mechanical warrior's combat skills are not very good. It is very much like a beginner. His attacks and defenses are strict, but he can always block their attacks just right, and still have room to force back their follow-up attacks, so that their cooperation is never perfect. After struggling with the angels for a few more minutes, Destroyer 018 finally completed his own data and calculated most of the changes in the god-killing combat number 1 tactics used by the angel warriors who besieged him. He immediately changed his previous conservative attitude and blocked the Fan Shenjian thrust by an angel. He reached out with the mechanical claw of his left hand towards the side of nothing and grabbed the weapon in the hand of the angel who was attacking from the side. The next moment, this angel was pulled by Destroyer 018 and hit the angel in front with his weapon. At the same time, the hidden muzzles of the flying wings at the rear each fired a purification beam, forcing the remaining 2 angels back. In just a short moment, the destroyer broke through the siege of the god-killing operation tactics number 1, shocking the male angels. The temporary team leader, who had been taking command not far away and was preparing the flame bombing, no longer hesitated when he saw this, and the flame bombing was blasted directly in the direction of the destroyer. Facing the Crimson Energy group that was approaching at an extremely fast speed and emitting dazzling light, Destroyer 018 had no idea of trying to intercept it. The flying wings on its back suddenly burst out with dazzling light and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Without the entanglement of other angels, Destroyer 018 immediately arrived near the leader of the temporary angel team in charge, burst out at his fastest speed, and swept towards his direction like a blue stream of light. By now it was too late for the male angel captain to speed up and dodge. He didn't know any explosive combat algorithms, so he could only prepare a flame bombing again with a solemn expression, preparing for a head-on confrontation with the destroyer. But after all, time was limited, and the energy accumulation of the flame bombing was not enough. As the two collided in the universe, a dazzling energy explosion rose up, and the fiery red energy aftermath quickly swept through all surrounding materials. In the energy flames of the explosion, the destroyer was carried upside down by the force of the shock. The angel warrior who fought with him had scratches all over his armor and rolled backwards. The Fan Shenjian in his hand was even more powerful. Half of it is left. After that, the destroyer had no intention of stopping, and planned to rely on his high acceleration advantage to rush towards the other 4 angels and kill them one by one. But his goal was destined to fail. A figure wrapped in white light came quickly from one side and hit Destroyer 018 hard. Under the huge kinetic energy, the two were swept away by the nearby planet 2846. It was captured by the gravity of the 9th planet and fell towards the ground. A meteor fell from the sky and hit the ground with a loud bang, splashing up earth and rocks more than 10 meters high, and even creating a huge crater. A few seconds later, a figure pushed open the soil at the bottom of the pit, flapped its wings, flew to the side and landed on the ground, and immediately lay prone on the ground. Kaza shook his head hard, and everything around him was shaking and turning. It took more than 10 seconds to slowly recover. Kaza hit the ground from outer space nearly 100,000 meters away from the surface. She didn't expect that she would be so crazy. Fortunately, the divine body upgraded by the goddess was strong enough. As for Destroyer 018, at this moment, his body has been reduced to dozens of parts scattered everywhere, and the prismatic eyes on the only relatively intact head are bright and dark. The body has been severely damaged and cannot be repaired. Unable to connect mobile system. Unable to link to the energy reactor. The flight function has malfunctioned. A series of failures let Destroyer 018 know that his body was no longer usable, so he simply returned to his host on planet 2846 with the collected Angel battle data. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 792. Ziluo stepped through the opened alloy door and entered the Queen's residence inside the Annihilation-class battleship. What caught his sight was the Queen sitting by the floor-to-ceiling porthole, staring alone at the starry sky. After not seeing each other for more than 10 years, the Queen is still so beautiful, and the aloof temperament exuding from her whole body, like the only lit torch in the darkness, is still so eye-catching. 11 Luo, here you are, sit down, I don't have anything to entertain you here. Binghua moved her gaze to look at the starry sky and landed on 11 Luo, who came in, with a smile on her face. I asked you to come to the first expeditionary group. You should have guessed why, right? Queen, please also make it clear that I am a warrior under your command, and I will execute any orders you give unconditionally. Ziluo's voice was solemn. In fact, she had been a little confused over the years. She found that besides contributing to the construction and safety of a just world, she could not find any other goal. After these years of serving in the justice world, coupled with the words and deeds of Ran and other colleagues, she, who was only interested in fighting, also understood some of the Queen's ideas and concepts. Originally, Ziluo didn't care about protecting the weak and maintaining order. When he was in the Marrow Heavenly Court, he felt that the concept of justice was very illusory. But after coming to the justice world, and slowly getting along with the soldiers and lovely civilians of the justice world, she discovered that the justice advocated by the Queen was not a vain concept, and the weak were not mortals who only prayed to them. They will also pick up weapons and huddle together to face enemies that are quite powerful even in Ziluo's opinion. So Ziluo discovered that the Queen's world of justice was actually pretty good and worth fighting for. Even if necessary, it was worth giving up her own life. It wasn't until Ziluo thought about this clearly that she understood to a certain extent the choices made by her good sister, Yinga. She should have thought so at the time. To protect what you consider precious, you will give everything you have. Binghua actually saw the changes in Ziluo's personality. When he was in the Merlot Heavenly Court, Binghua still remembered that Ziluo was an angel with a rather flamboyant personality and once threatened to compete with him. But with the death of Yinga, who was almost inseparable from Ziluo, on the Ore Star, Ziluo's transformation was like a different angel. Zhang Yang's original personality quickly became calm, and he rarely played with his colleagues, focusing on honing his skills and improving his tactics. This time Binghua transferred Ziluo here not only to find a teacher for Len who was proficient in hand-to-hand combat, but also to catch up with his old subordinate so that she could keep a straight face. Well, I remember you never spoke so seriously before. You should know that I recently accepted a student, her name is Len, and she is from Merlot Heavenly Court. She is not a native angel, but a product of Merlot's Heavenly Transformation Angel plan. She was once a mortal whose family was killed in the war between angels and demons. Because of her devout faith in angels and her tenacity, she was transformed into an angel. I don't know what you think about this, but I think as long as she thinks she is an angel and has the same ethics and morals as us, then she is an angel. Binghua stood up from his seat and walked to Ziluo's side while talking. She didn't attach much importance to the concepts of transformed angels and native angels, but she didn't know if her old subordinates would mind this. After all, it was impossible for all angels to think exactly the same. You must know that in today's Merlot heaven, some of the older generation of more traditional angels have expressed objections because of this, thinking that this has tarnished the noble blood of angels. However, this voice was suppressed by Kesha, and no one dared to object to Kesha's order. This eventually led to the separation of the old and new angels, forming new and old factions. When Binghua first heard this from He-11, he couldn't help but mourn for Kesha for a while, because it took more than 10,000 years for the Merlot Heavenly Court to eliminate the four major internal factions, and as a result, new ones appeared. Faction wars. Although as long as Kesha reigns for a day, this kind of factional dispute will not develop into an open confrontation, but when Kesha, the first angel king, abdicates and the next angel king takes the throne, it will definitely be a big problem. In the first case, the new king is not courageous enough and cannot suppress the older generation of angels and the new generation of angels, which will lead to a complete separation of the old and new angels. The two will go their separate ways, and the Merlot heaven will be divided into two. In the second case, the new king is courageous enough, but among the new and old angels, if the reputation of one side is not high enough, they will lose the support of one side, resulting in a great loss of the strength of Merlot Heavenly Court. The last one is the most ideal situation. The new king has enough qualifications and courage to suppress the old and new angels, and finally rely on time to resolve the gap between the two. As for Kaisha's student Yan, the fifth holy left-winger, even though Binghua has not met her, based on the descriptions of Hexi and Leng, he knows that this person's character is not very mature like Leng. At present, it seems that she is just a young female angel with a relatively flexible mind and commanding talents. She still has a long way to go before she can conquer the universe. These thoughts just flashed through Binghua's mind. Ziluo pondered the Queen's question before finally speaking with certainty. Queen, I don't want to discuss the issue between the old and new angels, nor do I want to explore the differences between the two. From my own perspective, as long as they are willing to fight side by side with me and share the same goals and ideals, they are my sisters. And Queen, you seem to have forgotten one thing. In the just world you established, there are countless civilizations and races, and there are even mortals and superior gods like us. But until now, has anyone ever asked you to separate them into 3, 6, or 9 levels? Because as long as you are the queen, your subordinates can see that you treat everyone equally, never distinguishing between fellows and outsiders. Then what reason do we, as subordinates, have to distinguish between what is a native angel and what is a transformed angel? Does this have any benefit to the development of a just world? 11 Luo's words made Binghua stunned for a moment, and then he looked at 11 Luo's calm face with interest and praised him. I didn't expect you, a martial artist, to say such a thing. I really underestimated you before, 11 Luo. After receiving the Queen's praise, Ziluo's calm face finally had a smile. Well, since you don't mind, I'll leave Leng's teaching to you. By the way, you can also tell her more about this. She is just like you before, she has no intentions and just wants to fight and kill. Binghua reached out and patted Ziluo's shoulder and asked. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 793. Shortly after Ziluo left, Binghua received Kaza's request to meet. Hey! Did you have a collision with a battleship? How did it happen? Binghua was very happy to see Kaza's appearance. On his originally handsome and strong face, the muscles of the right cheek were slightly deformed, as if he had been squeezed hard by something. He was obviously beaten. Queen, can you stop making sarcastic remarks there? Your loyal warrior is fighting for you through life and death. Kaza's tone was a little helpless. Although he knew that the Queen had a bad personality and liked to see his jokes, he still made up his mind to find the Queen in order not to be beaten in the future. What did you do? I heard from some angels that a few days ago you dragged an enemy from outer space and crashed onto the surface. Listen to my advice from the Queen. Although the divine body is durable, it has its limits. I advise you to give up your hobby of carrying enemies into planets as soon as possible. Seeing that Kaza still wanted to say something to refute him, Binghua directly ended the topic and asked. Tell me what's going on. With the strength of your divine body, ordinary attacks will not cause such consequences. The super genes have been destroyed. What you are going through is not easy. Binghua's eyes were so sharp, and he had also made achievements in the field of super genes, so he could directly see through the wounds on Kazah's face the super gene cells that were slowly repairing inside. The reason why the repair speed is so slow is related to the purification energy that is constantly eroding the surroundings in the super gene cells. Queen, this is why I'm looking for you. A very evil being has recently appeared among the eternal ascended ones. I fought with him several times, and I destroyed him without much effort in the first few times, but the last 2 times he has become more and more difficult to deal with, and he has more and more gadgets on his body. Today I was accidentally hit a few times by the device he wore on my hand. Although the injuries were not serious, I have not fully recovered yet. Kazah's face was solemn. The opponent seemed to be deliberately collecting his combat data. He could feel the opponent's progress every time he fought against him. It would not be good if this continued. Now the attack on the 2846 planetary system has only advanced to the 8th planet. There are still 6 planets ahead that are strictly guarded by the Eternal Ascended. It will take at least a few years to capture them all and completely eliminate the opponent's resistance. This time seems very slow to Binghua or other angels, but it needs to be taken into account that the sailing speed of ordinary battleships in the world of justice and the mobilization of troops also take time. They cannot have the endurance for as long as the angels, and they need supplies and training. Then what are you doing here? I have left the war on the 2846 planetary system to you and the Supreme Tactical Planning Department for coordination. When this happens, you should go to the Supreme Tactical Planning Department and ask them to find a solution for you. Binghua crossed his legs and leaned on the back of the chair. He didn't seem to be very interested in what Kazah said. In fact, the high-sequence mechanical warriors of the Eternal Ascenders have the ability to learn, and Binghua knew this. Not to mention the Destroyer Mechanical Warrior team that you encountered in the Purification Star Territory or the Destruction Fortress that you encountered in the Angel Nebula. As long as the other party fights against you, they will get something. However, there are many tactics and fighting methods that Binghua can choose. As long as the opponent doesn't make a qualitative change, it's just a lot more effort. Queen, if this continues, it's not an option. You can't just watch your subordinates get beaten every day, right? I am the commander of the Angel Legion appointed by you personally. It is okay for me to be beaten every day, but my colleagues will see it as a disgrace to you. Kazah didn't finish the rest of the words, but the meaning is self-evident. Anyway, he is thick-skinned and is not afraid of embarrassment. If you don't care, he will go home immediately. When did you learn this trick? Okay, I get it. No matter how good-tempered Binghua was, he was still upset by Kazah's face. Binghua recalled the reserves of his weapon arsenal, then called up the data and checked a few pages, and finally found something that was quite suitable for the current situation. Okay, I'll find something for you. As long as you bring this thing with you, the other party won't be able to collect your combat data. Binghua said and stretched out her hand, and a dagger-like weapon appeared in her hand. The overall shape was quite artistic, and the layered and beautiful lines were very eye-catching. This weapon doesn't have many functions. It can break shields and collect escaped data streams. It's an early work of mine. I just gave it to you if I don't need it. But it's too close to his host, so I'm not sure if it can be intercepted, but if the interception is successful, you will make a lot of money. After Binghua finished speaking, he threw the dagger in his hand, and Kazah quickly caught it with joy. His original purpose of coming here to find the queen was to see if there was any advantage he could take advantage of. Now that he had obtained the queen's things, Kazah resigned and left without waiting for Binghua to leave the house. Seeing this, Binghua shook his head and didn't pay much attention. Now that all aspects of the world of justice have entered a normal state, Binghua has no intention of intervening unless necessary. Otherwise, the army of the just world is like a child that never grows up and can never be independent. On the other side, after Ziluo left the room where the queen was, he came to the residence assigned to her. After tidying up a little, he left the annihilation level and went to the satellite of the 9th planet in the 2846 planetary system based on the information provided by the queen. Leng stayed on the desolate satellite and was studying the dark energy tactics and energy conversion theory he had learned. During this period of time, Binghua stopped Leng's rigorous training, which allowed Leng to take a good rest for a while. Leng enjoyed it at first, but after a long rest, Leng gradually started to feel uncomfortable. Looking for something to do. Just as Leng was holding her flaming sword and optimizing her dark energy cutting algorithm, a voice suddenly sounded behind her. "You are the queen's student, Leng." Leng Xiu raised an eyebrow, put down the flaming sword and turned around. What came into view was a female angel with a stern face and brown shoulder-length hair. The armor on his body is also different from the first angel legion that Leng has seen. The style is very similar to the standard armor of Merlot Heaven, but it is more gorgeous and has some more detailed accessories. "I am Leng. You should be the teacher Ziluo, who the teacher said will be responsible for training me next." Leng felt 11 Luo's eyes sizing him up and took the lead in breaking the silence between them. Ziluo nodded, feeling cold in his heart quite well. At least he was not submissive. To become an outstanding warrior, calmness and the courage to move forward are indispensable. "I will be responsible for your hand-to-hand combat training next. I hope you can persist. After all, my training methods are a bit rough." Leng Vinian suddenly had a bad feeling in his heart. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 794. Ziluo didn't let Leng wait for too long, and quickly entered the state of being a teacher. Before officially practicing with Leng, Ziluo, who didn't have much teaching experience, chose the same model as Binghua. "Before I train you, I want to make it clear that unarmed combat is not necessarily better or more powerful than armed combat. There are only a few angels in the entire angel civilization who are proficient in unarmed combat. Among them, except for me who use it as the main means of combat, the other angels only use it as the last means of counterattack in emergencies." "Why is that?" Leng curiously asked. When he was checking the information of his teacher, King of Heavenly Sword, he took a look at the information of some god-level angels who had retired. Leng still remembers Ziluo's achievements. After all, among the armed angel masters who mastered dark energy tactics, she was the only one who beat countless demons and fallen angels to death with a pair of iron fists. Compared to the fact that the flame sword has the assistance of a weapon engine and uses itself as a carrier, it can easily accumulate energy and perform many powerful destructive attacks such as flame bombing and sky blade judgment. The upper limit of unarmed combat means that it is more suitable for one-on-one combat. If you want to calculate a powerful algorithm, it requires a long period of energy storage, which is fatal in combat. Saying that he was cold made him even more suspicious. If he really had so many shortcomings as Ziluo said, then why did his teacher let him learn unarmed combat? However, although Leng was rather reckless, he was not stupid enough to express his doubts in front of 11 Luo. Ziluo didn't care about Leng's reaction. The secret of unarmed fighting can only be discovered after truly learning and mastering it. A few days ago, 11 Luo planned to instill in Leng the basic ideas of unarmed combat and the theories he had summed up in actual combat. After that, Leng was asked to practice some basics first, and finally practiced with himself. As for whether Leng was willing to learn, this was not within the scope of Ziluo's consideration. While Ziluo was training Leng, Binghua also temporarily focused his attention on the war against the 2846 planetary system. After Kaza got the weapon given by the goddess, he was very excited and wanted to have a fight with that special destroyer immediately to avenge the last disfigurement. But it was a pity that until he led the fleet and legion to advance the battle line to the sixth planet, the opponent did not appear again, which made him a little regretful. Compared with the steady progress of the Purification Star territory, although the war in the number 8 star territory had some twists and turns, there were no major changes. But only the 3rd Expeditionary Group attacking the Death Star territory encountered a difficult nut to crack. It was a planetary system that had been infected by chaotic creatures for nearly 100 years. The major planets inside the planetary system were filled with dark red that absorbed the energy of the stars. Context. Faced with this obstacle lying ahead, in order not to delay the overall offensive strategy of the 3rd Expeditionary Force, Alan temporarily entrusted the task of protecting the transit world to his trustworthy subordinates, and led a group of soldiers from the 2nd Angel Legion to rush forward. Arrive at the front line. Burn. Burn them completely. Ililo broke into the biological battleship on an assault boat, shouted loudly to his colleagues around him, and then raised the high-temperature plasma jet gun in his hand. The next second, a surging high-temperature plasma jet rushed from the muzzle toward the front. Chaos bodies poured out. Under the high temperature of tens of thousands of degrees, any flesh and blood life form will only turn into ashes. Even the chaotic body with skin that resists high temperatures is no exception. Even if these chaotic bodies are not afraid of death, they cannot change this outcome. If their bodies are contaminated by a tiny bit of high-temperature plasma flames, they will be instantly burned away. As one of the first batch of beings to be strengthened by the 3rd generation super-transformed warriors, and one of the first few prototypes, Ililo naturally became the leader of a legion. But similar to super-elite troops such as Super Legion and Elite Legion, Legion commanders are not meant to sit in the back and dictate to frontline soldiers. As a valuable super combat force within the Legion, the Legion commander only needs to make a rough strategic plan during a large-scale war, and the rest will be left to his assistant officers and the attached planning department. The Legion commander himself will personally wear armor and go into battle, charging forward to fight with his brothers. If the Legion commander is unfortunately killed in battle, he only needs to recover the storage core in their body to reshape their body from behind. But the Legion commander also has a term of office. For the sake of the Legion's mobility, the Legion commander will step down from his position every 500 years and become the commander of the newly established Legion, or choose to be transferred to the logistics and serve as the chief officer. But these Legion commanders who have withdrawn from the front line will not disappear from here on. They will be arranged to be named in the Legion Commanders Group. When necessary, they will gather together and join the battle in the name of the Legion Commanders Group. You must know that the commander of the Legion has generally undergone a full set of transformation and strengthening, but it is not the strengthening of the Legion members that has been reduced to a certain extent. Their combat effectiveness is close to that of the 3rd generation super soldiers. Such a powerful force will naturally not be forgotten. However, the world of justice clearly stipulates that as long as the super-modified warriors have served for more than 2,000 years, they can apply for retirement, and they can choose how to spend the next 2,000 years. 2,000 years is the longest period of decline after the maintenance of super-transformed warriors is stopped, and it is also the time that they can continue to survive. After all, their transformation is different from that of super soldiers. It is not biased towards longevity, but more to enhance combat capabilities. Even if they do not stop maintaining their bodies, after 2,000 years, high-intensity battles will easily cause some irreparable wear and tear on their bodies, which will only shorten their survival time. In order to compete with the increasing number of biological warships in the universe, the Super Legion has to join the battlefield in this way. Although this method of breaking into the biological warships to cause damage is very effective, it is also extremely dangerous. While the Expeditionary Forces fleet was fighting with the biological warships of the Chaos Army, Queen Chi of Erils led a group of elites to sneak attack the home of the chaotic creatures, which was used by Chaos to synthesize biological warships and the planet of the Chaos Behemoth. However, as soon as Chi led his troops to land, they encountered the Chaos Lord of this planetary system. The opponent was similar to the Chaos Lords he had encountered before. His body was extremely large, like a mountain, and the ground shook when he moved. Facing the Chaos Lord who attacked at will like a natural disaster, the elite legion led by Chi suffered heavy losses, and Chi had to evacuate after weighing the pros and cons. Facing this kind of enemy, it would be difficult to effectively kill it without the fire support of the fleet, but now the fleet cannot escape at all and is tightly entangled by the Chaos Fleet. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 795. It was after Elan received the news that Kai's front was frustrated and needed support that he led some of his legion members to the front line. Chi, how is the situation now? I brought 1/3 of the Angel Legion members over, which should be able to relieve the pressure on the fleet. Elan was not polite when he saw Chi and went straight to the point. That's great. Chaos creatures are no match for us one-on-one, but there are too many of them. The fleet has already tried its best just to deal with the biological fleet. The high-level angels you brought can just make up for our lack of firepower, and can also avoid the dangerous environment on the surface. This time we can definitely completely destroy the planet where the Chaos Lord is located. Chi stood up from his throne, faced Elan and said excitedly, Chi had always been worried about his failure at the Chaos Lord last time. Seeing Elan slightly raising his eyebrows as if he had doubts, Chi secretly said that he was not prepared, and quickly introduced the current battlefield situation to Elan, focusing on the fact that as long as the Chaos Lord did not die, the Chaos Army would continue to grow. After hearing this, Elan also understood the dangers of the Chaos Lord and expressed his willingness to assist Chi in attacking the planet where the Chaos Lord is located. Soon Chi completed his preparations for the second attack, bypassing the scorching battlefield in front of him like last time and heading straight towards the planet where the Chaos Lord was. This is a planet that has been infected by the Chaos virus for more than 100 years. Its appearance has completely changed. In large areas, no difference between mountains and rivers can be seen, and no life other than chaotic creatures can be seen. Dark red root-like objects spread and grow everywhere on the ground. Countless hilly bulges expand and contract slightly, and chaotic bodies will emerge from them from time to time. Occasionally, those hundreds of meters of bulges would suddenly shatter, and dark yellow liquid would flow all over the floor, revealing the roaring chaotic beast inside. This was Elan's first feeling when he arrived on this planet. The planet was dead and without any vitality, and these chaotic creatures were parasites that sucked the last flesh and blood from the carrion of the planet. Attention all battle groups, our mission is to install planetary disintegration bombs, don't fight these monsters. Once installed, evacuate together, remember there are no. Chi said in the communication to all the battle groups participating in this operation, and emphasized the strategic goals. With the rumbling explosion, the silence and daily routine of the planet were broken, and the chaotic creatures were also alerted and rushed towards the Eternal Guards who had just landed to clear a safe area. The rumble of footsteps shook the earth, and several giant chaotic beasts nearly 100 meters high led the tide-like chaotic body, rolling in like a landslide. Chi has already had a plan on how to deal with these chaotic behemoths. After all, she didn't come here in vain last time. At least she got the information about the chaotic army of this planet. When planning this operation, she also applied for the use of time and space. Door permissions. As Chi used the gate of time and space to apply for support, a thick blue light beam fell across the sky, stirring up a gust of wind and dust. When the light beam dissipated, 5 thick and sturdy mechas nearly 100 meters high stood like giant peaks on the originally empty land. Then an opening sentence that was extremely familiar to all legions in the world of justice echoed in the communication channel. Apocalypse is here, tell me where your enemy is, and I will smash him to pieces. Apocalypse Type 2, a giant battlefield support mecha, has super firepower and extremely strong space-time shield defense capabilities. It is the most relied upon comrade of offensive and defensive forces, and the figure that all battle groups in desperate situations most want to see. As Apocalypse joined the battlefield, the defense line that originally lacked heavy firepower was immediately supplemented. An Apocalypse has more than 6 dark matter annihilation cannons and a dozen dark matter missile launch pods. The firepower it can pour out is comparable to a small fire support ship, not to mention 5 such big guys on the battlefield at the moment. The Chaos Army was blown to pieces before they even got close to the Eternal Guards. Even the Chaos Beasts among them were reduced to scattered pieces of flesh and blood under the concentrated fire of several dark matter annihilation cannons. The chaotic bodies that rush through the bombing zone will be taken over by the Eternal Guards on the ground. The blasters and high-temperature plasma spray guns in their hands are not just decorations. Seeing that the ground was losing its advantage, giant chaotic creatures from 10 meters to more than 10 meters long began to appear in the sky, and there was even a biological battleship nearly a kilometer long. Chi, who was near the planetary disintegration bomb installer, saw through the observation equipment that the Chaoside's air power began to exert force, and turned to look at Elan, who was aside. Elan nodded and said, "Just leave it to me." He turned around and left the command center, spread his wings and flew into the air. Seeing this, the Angel Legion soldiers who were waiting on the ground also got up and joined in the air. "You Angel warriors! Follow me to attack and take down this sky." Elan pointed his sword at the chaotic creature high in the sky. As soon as he finished speaking, an angel passed by Elan's side like an arrow from a string and rushed into the sky. Then the roars of chaotic creatures came up and down from the sky, as well as bursts of spreading fire. Elan was not worried about the safety of his soldiers. Faced with a large and slow-moving enemy like the Chaos Virus, Angel's high mobility gave him every advantage. After resisting the chaotic creatures for a period of time, the planetary fragmentation bomb installation device on the ground was finally fixed. As Chi gave the order, the high-temperature particle-cutting beam immediately began to cut the drilling ground. Condensing the high-temperature ion energy comparable to that of stars into one point will bring extremely terrifying penetrating power. It will drill a channel directly to the center of the Earth. Then the planetary fragmentation bomb will be delivered into the center of the Earth. Through the powerful power of its explosion, it will destroy the stability of the star core, causing it to collapse inward, thereby destroying the planet's magnetic field, and eventually leading to the self-disintegration of the planet. This is to eliminate Star Destroyer strike is the lowest cost method of destroying a planet besides directly destroying the planet itself. Others, such as dark matter bombs commonly used by aerospace-level civilizations, are easily intercepted. Chi tried it, but was blocked by a huge number of chaotic creatures. Only then did he choose to take the risk and break through the chaotic biological defense line on the outer edge of the planet, reach the surface of the planet and install the planetary disintegration bomb, otherwise it might take a while. But now what Chaos and the Expeditionary Force are fighting for is time. The Expeditionary Force does not want to fall into a war of attrition, which will consume a lot of resources and troops. The goal of every war is based on a war of annihilation. Otherwise, it will take an unknown amount of time to clear out the entire Death Star territory. I am afraid that even a generation will not be able to see the hope of victory when they grow old. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 796. The sky was captured by the Angel Legion, and the Chaos Army on the ground was blocked by the defense line composed of Apocalypse and Eternal Guards. However, in the face of the gradually gathering chaotic creatures, it is only a matter of time before the defense line is broken, but this period is enough to install the planetary disintegration bomb. But unfortunately, After realizing that his subordinates could not annihilate the forces of the world of justice in a short time, the Chaos Lord chose to take matters into his own hands and crush these insects jumping around on his territory. Rumbling, the earth trembled, and the cracks spread crazily around. As the ground bulged, a giant sharp claw like a hill broke out of the ground and slapped the ground heavily. Alan, who was in mid-air, had actually been staring at the surroundings. When he saw the rightful owner appearing, he dived and rushed over. The scorching glow on the sword of judgment in his hand began to boil. Chi was trying to stabilize all defense lines in the communication, not to panic because of the appearance of the Chaos Lord, and then nervously paid attention to Ilan, who was gradually approaching the Chaos Lord, hoping that she would be more powerful. The blazing stream of light flashed in the air, and then there was a loud rumbling sound, and the scorching fire cloud swept away in all directions. The giant claw that had just been stretched out from the ground was blown to pieces with blood and flesh, and there was a faint green smoke. Seeing this, Ailan turned around to accumulate energy and swung out a giant vertical flame slash. The blade that connected to the sky and seemed to be condensed with flames attracted everyone's attention as soon as it appeared. The ground was cut open, the air was torn apart, as if everything inside was divided into two halves, and the giant claw that bore the brunt was no exception. The bloody flesh and blood that had been blown up was now directly cut open, spitting out the continuously surging inside. Flesh and blood, large areas of dark red blood spilled on the ground. After receiving such a blow, the Chaos Lord who had been slowly crawling out of the ground was immediately enraged and let out an earth-shaking roar. It was as if a mountain range was rising out of thin air, and the ground stretching for tens of kilometers was bulging. A monster that was tens of kilometers long and had multiple giant claws lifted the land above its head, venting its anger to the world. Even Elan was shocked by the size of the Chaos Lord. This could be said to be the largest creature on the surface of the earth he had ever seen, except for biological battleships. But before the Chaos Lord could vent his anger, a series of huge flaming slashes hit him again, cutting his huge body with several hideous wounds that were deep enough to show the bones. The Chaos Lord immediately forgot about the insects jumping around on his territory, and only saw Elan. He opened his huge mouth that could swallow the sky and the earth, and a ball of bright green liquid spurted out. Elan accelerated away from the place, avoiding the liquid covering it like a wave, and flew towards an area far away from the battlefield. The Chaos Lord also moved his body as if he were boneless, and kept spraying liquid from his mouth, but was dodged by the flexible Elan. After the liquid fell on the ground, it immediately boiled and corroded the earth with holes. Elan turned around from time to time and swung a huge flame slash, attracting the hatred of the Chaos Lord. The chase between the two lasted for more than half an hour. Elan finally received the news that the planetary disintegration bomb had been successfully installed. They were about to evacuate the planet, allowing Elan to get rid of the Chaos Lord and leave with them. Chi, you don't have to worry about me leaving here first. I can fly faster than light in the universe and go back by myself. Alan, we can't leave you here alone. Listen to me and come back quickly, let's go together. Kai's tone was a little anxious, and he quickly urged the Eternal Guards around him to speed up their evacuation, and at the same time communicated with the Gate of Time and Space to prepare to transfer them. Chi, don't worry about me, you seem to have forgotten one thing, I am a god on the same level as the goddess. A mere Chaos Lord can't put me in trouble. It would take at least a few gods of the same level as me to kill me. Elan's tone was unusually confident, which made Chi on the opposite side hesitate. Don't worry Chi, listen to me and leave first. I'm going to give the Chaos Lord a big one, I'm afraid it will affect you. Chi, don't hesitate anymore. If this continues, it will only become more and more difficult for you to evacuate. Do you want your soldiers to die here in vain? Seeing that Chi didn't reply, Ian's tone became serious, as if he was scolding his subordinates. Okay, Alan, I will put the Gate of Time and Space on standby. Please contact me if you need our support. She finally fulfilled her responsibility as the Queen of Arils and made a decisive decision without hesitation. In fact, she also knew that there was a certain risk for Elan to evacuate with them, because the destructive power of the Chaos Lord was so amazing that a little carelessness would cause huge casualties. A blue beam of light descended from the sky again, covering all the gathered Eternal Guards and Apocalypse Mecha. Chi took one last look at the rising dust at the end of the horizon, and was moved to a safe place with his subordinates. Elan, who was high in the sky, naturally saw the light pillar representing the gate of time and space. Jianqi and her subordinates successfully transferred. Elan, who was aroused by the Chaos Lord, immediately climbed towards the high altitude. The Chaos Lord on the ground kept roaring when he saw this, but although his huge body gave him unparalleled defense capabilities, it also limited his mobility. It's not that he couldn't fly, but if he wanted to send his huge body dozens of kilometers away, going into space really requires a lot of effort. Elan, who used his full speed, had already escaped from the gravity constraint of the planet beneath him in a moment and arrived at its outer space orbit. After turning around and estimating how long it would take for the chaotic creatures chasing him to reach his location, Elan raised his sword of judgment high. Start the weapon engine, import the Sky Blade bombing formula and the Star Drive formula. In an instant, the sword of judgment held high by Elan burst into extremely dazzling light, and at the same time, the surrounding light was still gathering here. All the stellar light radiation shining towards this place from stars in the self-propelled system is attracted to Elan's position. It can be seen with the naked eye that the area where the planet under Elan faces the star becomes dim, as if cast a shadow. At the same time, a dazzling light like a star slowly rose in the outer space orbit of the planet. Any life that tried to look directly at it felt as if its eyes were being burned by flames. When he felt that the energy was almost accumulated, Elan immediately launched the Sky Blade Judgment on the planet below, constraining the endless light and heat he had accumulated into a beam of light and launching it towards the surface of the planet. The army of chaotic creatures rushing towards Elan was hit head-on by the light beam, and was instantly assimilated into particles, which bombarded the ground unimpeded and spread in all directions. For a moment, the earth cracked, the mountain peaks collapsed, and a crimson wave formed by light and heat washed away in all directions. Under the bombardment of such terrifying energy, the planet's geology began to change violently. New mountain peaks were squeezed and raised by the two continents, and deep canyons appeared on the originally flat land. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 797. When Elan stopped the heavenly blade judgment, the appearance of the planet beneath him had changed drastically, and nearly one-third of the area was glowing with stars cooled by high temperatures. The huge crater on the surface is clearly visible even from Elan's location, and many other changes in the terrain are impossible to summarize. After appreciating his masterpiece for a moment, Elan felt no psychological burden. After all, there was no normal life on this planet. If such a large-scale heavenly blade trial were launched on a planet full of intelligent life, Elan might still feel a sense of guilt in his heart. Turning around, the angel wings behind him encouraged him to fly towards the outside of the planetary system. With constant acceleration, Elan soon reached the conditions for super light flight. A faint silver energy glow appeared all over his body, and he disappeared into the universe, skittering deep into the starry sky. Shortly after Elan left, a terrifying roar came from inside the planet that was riddled with holes by the Sky Blade Judgment. Immediately, huge cracks appeared on the Earth again, and various plates rose and sank, quickly destroying the newly stabilized planet's landscape into a mess again. But this time the geological changes show no signs of stopping. Even due to the dissipation of the planet's magnetic field, the stellar energy wind generated by the star is rapidly stripping away the already thin atmosphere. As the atmosphere is gradually stripped away and the core of the star collapses, the planet gradually stops rotating and the gravity begins to dissipate. The combined result of the two is that the basis for maintaining the planet's existence is destroyed. The planet also met its end, with the surface gradually shattered by geological movements, then the rock layers, crust, and finally the mantle. As the star core loses its restraints, its accumulated pressure is released all at once, pushing the land plates that have undergone major disintegration to gradually leave the star. At this point, the planet has been completely disintegrated. Whether in the eyes of chaotic creatures or the world of justice, this planet that was originally habitable with a little modification has lost its use value. It has been a day since Elan returned to the expeditionary force. Chi is very happy that Elan can come back. In fact, Chi also understands that there are not many things in the universe that can pose a threat to Elan, but the worry for his companions cannot be stopped by these cold data. On the other hand, without the addition of the Chaos Lords and new forces, the Expeditionary Forces fleet began to gradually gain the upper hand. Chaos creatures are constantly being strangled, and the day is not far away when this planetary system will be wiped out. But this great expedition is far from over. There are still vast seas of stars and enemies ahead, waiting for the righteous world to destroy them. Known universe, Chaiwa star system, China. After hundreds of years of recuperation, the Dino survivors have initially integrated into the land called China. However, for this land of China, which is still in the pre-nuclear and cold weapon civilization, some Dino survivors have chosen to sleep. They originally wanted to help the land of China quickly improve its technological level, but were stopped by Tokyo because Sun Wukong said that the future of China must be decided by the people of China themselves. The meaning of this sentence is self-evident, that is, they should not interfere too much with the development of the people of China. Although Tokyo felt a little regretful about this, he was not too surprised. The most important thing for a civilization is to have its own unique cultural values. If other civilizations guide him, he may deviate from his original route. Although Sun Wukong does not understand these theories, he always knows that people's future must be determined by themselves. After hundreds of years of war in China, a hero finally emerged who unified the world and established a country called Tang. The land of China has thus entered an unprecedented period of peace. The Tokyo and Dino survivors had lived in seclusion for many years. Seeing that peace had returned to China, they decided to go out for a walk and take a look at this country established by the people of China. Sun Wukong didn't say anything about this. He just needed to prevent these extraterrestrial visitors from interfering too much in the development of civilization in China. Another reason why Tokyo chose to join the WDO was to guide Tang's development a little so that they would not be unable to find a way forward, so as to speed up their entry into the pre-nuclear and even post-nuclear era. But what no one expected was that a giant boat comparable to an asteroid was slowly sailing near the Chaiwa star system. The clouds and mist are rising on this giant boat, and you can vaguely see the continuous jade buildings and palaces on the mountain peaks, which looks like an immortal family in myths and legends. General, we are about to arrive at the Chaiwa star system. Do we need to build a wormhole leading to the Nantianmen? Yuan Li, one of the four guardians of Liang, knelt on the ground and saluted with his fists clasped. No need for the moment, our external purpose of coming here is to explore the Chaiwa star system, and our real purpose is to wipe out the remnants of Dino. Don't be too impatient, and based on the group of people under Kaya, I can already take a good look at them when I drive over to Yongxiaoding. Pan Zhen, dressed in silver armor, sat on the main seat in the Yongxiao Heavenly Hall, with a screen carved with dragons and phoenixes behind him. His voice was neither urgent nor slow, as if everything was under control. After Yuan Li knew what Pan Zhen meant, he resigned. Kaya, thousands of years ago you were able to escape from the hands of the blazing Sunday, this time without the protection of angels and the super seminary. I will see how you can escape from the hands of the blazing Sunday. Pan Zhen said to himself that the hatred between Liang and Binghua was now entangled, and it was meaningless to discuss who was right and who was wrong. But if Liang wanted to maintain dignity, he must bring the Binghua survivors to the rescue. Erased from now on. As for the Islanders and Thunderblade stars who were jumping around the Tiandao galaxy, although Pan Zhen felt a little annoyed, he couldn't kill them directly. After all, the action of the blazing sun detonating the sun and destroying the Dino civilization made even the civilizations in the entire known universe extremely frightened. If Liang does something like this again, now that there is no main god, there will definitely be a crusade from the gods. Even the angelic civilization that believes in justice and order will definitely stand by and watch. Because the blazing sun that explodes at a moment's notice is an extremely unstable factor. In the eyes of the King of Gods, the stability of order is greater than anything else. However, these factors will be solved after a while and the new main god of Liang is born. The deterrent power brought by the top god-making project in the universe is no less than the super-nuclear weapons in the hands of civilization in the post-nuclear era. Because compared to Pan Zhen who needed to use the Tiandao Tower and other means to move stars, Liang's main god could do it alone, and it was easier. At this moment, the Dino remnants who are on the earth, and Sun Wukong, the patron saint of China, have no idea about the great terror that is about to come to the land of China. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 798. The blazing flaming meteor penetrated the atmosphere and fell rapidly towards the land of China. This did not attract the attention of others. Only Sun Wukong felt a weak energy hidden in the meteor falling from the sky. Boom! A small crater was created on the ground, and a warrior wearing silver armor, a helmet, and holding a spear stepped out of the billowing dust and smoke. Report, Master Yuan Li, I have successfully logged into the third planet of the Chiwa star system. The environment here is beautiful and the climate is pleasant, making it very suitable for Liang people to settle. The Liang Star Forward observed the surroundings while using Liang's algorithm to collect information about the planet beneath his feet. Be careful to hide yourself and don't alert the Dino survivors there. It's Lord Yuan Li. I disguised myself as a meteorite when I logged in, so ordinary detection algorithms can't see me. I'll soon finish gathering the information here and find where the Dinos are hiding. Okay, we will arrive at Yongxiao Tianting today, and then the Dino people will have no chance of escaping. Yuan Li, who was in the Yongxiao heavenly court, hung up the communication. Xian Crocodile guarding Xian Kun on the side said casually. Do you need to be so cautious? They are just a bunch of lost dogs. Moreover, this time the general also brought the elites of Yongxiaoting and the Liang army. How could a mere pre-nuclear civilization make waves? Yuan Li is not as optimistic as Xian Kun. General, it is imperative that we destroy the remnants of Dino this time. As the guardians of the blazing sun, we naturally need to be fully prepared. And the Dinos are not just lost dogs. Have you forgotten how our sun star became what it is now? At that time, they could also be regarded as lost dogs by us. Yuan Li's words immediately brought back a relatively long memory in Xian Kun's mind. At that time, he was just an elite member of the Liang army and was fortunate enough to participate in the Battle of Nantianmen against the Noxing god of war. He clearly remembered how powerful and domineering the Noxing god of war was at that time, and General Liang had no single enemy. Even their main god of the Liang, the sun god, could not do anything about him personally. In the end, the earth-shattering death blow of the Noxing god of war became an indelible nightmare in the hearts of all the Liang people present at that time. Although the people of Liang hate the Noxing god of war very much, they also admire his strength and bravery. After all, he was the one who single-handedly crippled Liang's civilization, and Liang has not completely recovered until now. It seems that the people here have formed their own civilization. This needs to be reported to the general. Moreover, the people here look so similar to us Liang people, so they are very suitable for integrating into Liang. The blazing sun pioneer came near a city and observed the city towering above China. While recording what he saw and heard, he also expressed his own opinions. After recording for a while, Liang pioneer didn't have any bad feelings towards the civilization on this planet, but also felt a little strange, because except for some customs, it had many things in common with Liang. Who are you? Have I never seen you in China? The Sun Pioneer was startled by the words coming from behind him, and he quickly rolled forward and turned around, aiming his spear at Sun Wukong, who suddenly appeared behind him. Fighter of the animal civilization. Why are you here? Could it be that this planet is a civilization captive by you? When the Flame Pioneer saw Sun Wukong's costume clearly, he was shocked, because in the sight of the Sun Wukong Pioneer, this animal warrior with a furry face and a thunderous mouth wore a golden crown on his head, golden armor on the shoulder of a beast, and golden shoes on his feet. This outfit is even more generous than General Liang. This was the second time that Sun Wukong heard someone call him a beast warrior. His brows immediately furrowed and he corrected him dissatisfied. I, old Sun, am not some beastly warrior, but the patron saint of this land of China. Boy, you haven't told me who you are and what your purpose is in coming to China. Liang Pioneer made a careful distinction again, and felt that Sun Wukong and the animal civilization recorded by Liang were indeed not very similar, so he straightened his chest and said proudly. I am the elite of Liang, the pioneer of the sky. Liang? Are you from the Liang star? Yes, I am officially from the Liang star. After Sun Wukong received the confirmation, he immediately thought of the story Dukao once told, and he suddenly became more wary of the Sun Pioneer. You Liang star is so far away from here, why are you here? If nothing happens, I would like to advise you to leave China as soon as possible. You little god, since you know our Liang, you should know that our Liang is the top civilization in the universe. We naturally have things we need to do when we come here. As a pioneer of Liang, I would like to advise you not to stop us Liang people from doing anything. Sun Wukong is a master who always accepts the soft and not the hard. The words of the Flame Pioneer immediately aroused his anger, and he pointed at the Yang Pioneer with the dark alloy rod in his hand. You bullshit Liang is nothing to me, Sunday. I don't care whether you are number 1 or number 2 in the universe. If you don't listen to my advice, you will be responsible for the consequences. The Sun Pioneer's face turned red when he heard this, but Sun Wukong turned around and jumped away directly, and the Sun Pioneer did not pursue it. In fact, when Sun Wukong was aroused just now, the dark energy radiation revealed made Sun Pioneer feel great pressure. Seeing that Sun Wukong had completely left at this moment, Liang Pioneer quickly contacted Yungxiao Heavenly Court and reported what he saw and heard. After Yuan Li thought carefully, he asked the Liang Pioneer to temporarily leave China and return to the Yungxiao Heavenly Court. In the Yungxiao Heavenly Palace, Yuan Li immediately reported the incident of Sun Wukong to Pan Zhen. That's it, General. According to the pioneer officer's description, Sun Wukong claimed to be the patron saint of China and was very powerful. When facing him, he felt tremendous pressure, which was absolute suppression at the energy level. Oh, this is really interesting information. A little god popped up out of nowhere, and he happens to be on the planet where the Dino survivors are. Huh, he still calls himself the patron saint of China. In my opinion, he should call himself the patron saint of the Dino people. Don't worry about this matter, the sky is sailing as usual. This is probably another trick played by the Dinos. Yuan Li accepted the order and resigned. Although he felt that the general's behavior was a bit hasty, since the general had already made a decision, as a subordinate, he did not dare to object. When Pan Zhen was the only one left in the hall, he stood up from the throne, came to the door, looked at the bright sky, and said to himself, This time I must bring an end to the matter between Liang and Dino. No one can stop the rising Sunday.